Life Lessons Logistics. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Storytelling Chronicles Industry Insights with the FMCSA. Today, joining us will be Ken Riddle. We're going to have a great conversation. I also have two excellent co-hosts. You know one of them really good, Christy Knichel and Dale Prax from Freight Validate. We're going to bring them in right now. Hey, Dale. Hey, Christy.
Hey. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Can you hear us all pretty good?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, as I was saying, today we are joined by my two great hosts, Dale and Christy. Ken Riddle is from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration to give us an inside look on some of the agency's largest efforts and key initiatives. Ken, we are excited to hear more about these changes and what they mean for the industry. Let's bring him on. Hey, Ken, how are you, sir?
Great, thank you.
Great for taking the time out of your busy day, I'm sure, to join this special episode. We greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. We certainly appreciate it. We're super excited to hear what's going on and get right into it. But first, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what you do at the FMCSA? Introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Ken Riddle. I am the Office Director for the Office of Registration for the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. And the Office of Registration does what you would expect it to do, all things registration related to commercial motor vehicles. So we issue the US DOT number, the operating authority. We ensure that the appropriate filings, the financial responsibility filings, the process agent filings are completed. And we also support the registrants throughout the life cycle of a motor carrier. So it sounds pretty easy, but it's actually pretty complex. But that's what my office does.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Well, we're going to let Dale start and start asking some questions.
Sure. Ken, you and I talk, pretty frequently as in the last 5 or 6 months. And we do that, mostly to find out what's going on in the FMCSA, what changes are being made. And we want to let our industry stakeholders get kind of an inside look at what y'all are doing up there so they can make better sense of it. And I think that, before I start, really getting into this, there's one thing that I want to that's been really important to me. One of the things that our company tries to really look out for is principal place of business addresses. And that's been a big issue. People working out of UPS stores or PO boxes, those kind of things. And I really want to, shed some light on a conversation we had back in, I believe it was April at the MATS show, when we pointed out some things that we were finding in regards to PPOBs. And you made a promise to me that you were going to take that back to the agency, get to work on it even harder than you had been, and have your deputy, Tony, really kind of dig more into it. During that time, we were doing about 45. We saw about 45 PPOBs going through, the principal place of business being accepted through FMCSA. When I ran my report for last week, I ran it this morning, there were 3. So if anyone says that the government wheel is really slow in that aspect, I'd have to disagree wholeheartedly because I've seen the massive improvement. And so with that, I want to say that, not everybody that works at a principal place of business is a criminal, but 99% of the criminals work out of a principal place of business that's a post office box or something. So first, I just want to really tip my hat to you and say, when you made a promise, you kept it, and we're seeing that, and we're seeing less people getting into our system because of it. And we've seen the letters go out saying, hey, sorry, you don't meet the standard of MAP 21 or 390. So with that, I'd like to just start with you saying, what do you think is the reason that that's such an important statute?
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing it to our attention, Dale. We were aware that we have PPOB issues. but some of your insights really help us to get to the bottom of it. So we took on the effort to improve our system's ability to detect bad PPOBs, which are PPOBs that don't meet our regulatory and statutory requirements, and then prevent those PPOBs from being registered. And we really put a lot of effort in this. We haven't prevented them all. We have a little ways to go, but as we modernize our technology, modernize our registration system, we can do more and more to help ensure that the PPOB meet the requirements of the statute and regulations. And so I appreciated you bringing that to my attention when we were at Matt's at the truck show, and your dialogue and our collaboration ever since.
Yeah, it's really been a remarkable kind of partnership, and I really appreciate that we can have as industry stakeholders the ability to talk to the folks up there that make those changes and differences and make our industry better. So with that, I'd like to just go into a little bit about Ken and where the industry was. Where do you think it is now? And I'm talking from your perspective as a registration officer, director. Where do you think it was? Where do you think it is? Where do you think it's going to go with the new modernization with the FRS coming out?
Well, Dale, we heard loud and clear from the industry that they needed our help with fraud. Fraud is coming at the industry from every angle, whether it be an ELD, an insurance policy, a registration, or anything else. It's rampant. I don't think we've seen the likes of it like this forever. I would say, my words, it's an all-time high. And we realized that industry said, FMCSA, what can you do to help? Well, we were already planning to modernize our IT systems. They're in desperate need of modernization, especially the registration system. So we undertook an effort a while back to start modernizing our registration system. But when industry said, we need your help with fraud prevention, we put that at the forefront of the modernization effort. So everything we do when we're building this new system, and we're well down the road on building the new modernized system, fraud is at the forefront. How do we prevent bad actors from getting into the system or taking advantage of our existing registrants or new registrants? How do we prevent them from falsifying registrations? And I'll talk about it in a little bit, but I think we have some pretty good stuff coming down the road as part of our new registration system, maybe even earlier, that will help prevent that fraud. So that's one of the main changes that we think will significantly help the industry.
Yeah. And I think looking at some of those initiatives that you've maybe talked about at some other conferences and during listening sessions, there's some really good stuff in there that's going to, and I think I call it know your customer, right? A bank goes through a lot of things to know who their customer is. And I think the FMCSA, from what I'm reading, and it's heading down that road, because like an owner operator, when he gives a load, gives his truck to a broker, he really is lending them money. So he should know who he's dealing with. And I think that these initiatives are going to help that happen. So know your customer, KYC, is going to be really important. I think what you're doing, not just with individuals, but also with the businesses, to really pinpoint, is this guy really living in Pittsburgh or Pakistan? And those are kind of things that are really, you can think that's what I see coming.
Absolutely. With a new modernized system, our IT department can better track IP addresses and better understand who it is that's accessing the system. From a registration perspective, we want to be able to verify the identity of the individual registering. So we've contracted with a company called IDEMIA, IDEMIA, who will do the identity verification for us. So when we roll this out, which we hope to roll out later this year in front of our existing system, we're not going to wait on the new system. We can't wait. We got to do this now as soon as possible to help the industry. So we're planning on rolling this identity verification out in front of our existing system later this year. And what will happen, Dale, is a QR code is going to show up on the screen, and the applicant will have to scan the QR code with their phone or their iPad to start a session with this company called IDEMIA. And IDEMIA will walk through the identity proofing session with the applicant. So they'll start by having to upload a copy of their driver's license. We're going to accept 4 forms of identification: a driver's license, a passport, a resident card, or an identity card. Those are the 4 forms we'll accept. IDEMIA will verify that the credentials are valid, because they have ways to detect fraudulent credentials. Then you'll have to take a selfie of yourself, the applicant, and IDEMIA will match that selfie to the identity card. And then they will check systems of record from the state to verify that you are who you say you are. IDEMIA will then send those results back to us and say this applicant passed or this applicant didn't pass. And if you pass, you can continue the registration process. Another thing we're doing when we roll out the new system, this will have to wait on the new system because we haven't acquired it yet, and that is business verification. It's one thing to verify somebody's identity, but we also want to make sure that they're authorized to register the business they are registering. So we're going to acquire contract for business verification. And that way we're verifying that the business being registered is a legitimate business, because most businesses have to be registered with Secretary of State or a state licensing agency. Not the case for sole proprietors, all sole proprietors, but we're going to verify their identity and they are the business because they're sole proprietor. So we think those two things together will go a long ways towards ensuring that only valid registrants are applying in FMCSA's registration system. After we roll out the new system, we also want to run all existing registrants through the identity verification process to make sure we don't have any bad actors that are already in our system.
Yeah.
Love that.
And I think that's a great platform. And so much so that I'm going to put a shameless plug in for myself. As you know, Ken, we've been doing that with our freight validation company, doing facial recognition verification, all those kind of things. And it really makes a difference. And what we've done is even taken a step further. Get that selfie that's been verified by the company that we use. You can send that picture over to your shipper and say, if the guy doesn't look like this, don't give him the load.
Yeah, right now, though, because we are government, we cannot retain some of the information. Like IDEMIA does not retain the photo, the driver's license, or any other information from it. They do the proofing, and they just send us back for easy sake. I'll just say they send us back a yes or a no.
Yep.
We don't retain the personal information.
Right. Yeah. And on our side, we can do that because as long as we don't keep any of the biometrics, maybe just like having a picture on Facebook or something. So I really think that that's going to help the problem a lot, because it is, again, know your customer. And if you know with 100% certainty, and I know IDEMIA, they also can tell within 25 feet where that guy's standing when he took the picture. That's really helpful.
That is.
Yeah. They have some pretty sophisticated technology. TSA at the airports use IDEMIA. So next time you go to the airport, you're going through the TSA checkpoint, you'll notice the podium where the TSA agent is standing says IDEMIA on it. They are using the IDEMIA services.
The same as Clear.
Right. Yeah, it's Clear or Authentics. There's some good companies out there that do it. We happen to use Authentics, but it's the same principle, same practice. And I think this is what the industry really needs. Let's identify these folks with 100% certainty. So when he says he's a U.S. citizen on his application and he's coming in from, say, Pakistan, right away it's going to trigger somebody to think about that and say, hey, something's amiss here. This guy's got a $300 gift card. He's got some BOC3 guy that approved him. He's got a certificate of insurance that's no good from bad. But at least we know who this guy is. He doesn't have to come into the system anymore.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And Dale, you just brought up the insurance. I'm sorry.
Go
Good.
You brought up insurance companies and blanket process agent. We're going to verify their identity as well as they establish accounts in the new system.
Yeah, and I think that where that's going to come in really handy, and we've talked about this, the 3377 California Avenue in Signal Hill, where a registered agent has 300 or so agents there. This will put a stop to that because that agent has to be recognized who they are before they enter that carrier in. And I think if I remember right, the actual customer has to select one of those approved registered agents from their list to help them with their application process, right?
Yeah, I didn't hear everything you said, Dale.
Yeah. Okay. Check registered agents that are helping people get their authority, but they'll have to come from an approved list within your system, correct? The registered agent would have to be approved.
Yeah, everybody that accesses our system, to include those support services, will have to establish an account within our system, and we will send those companies through identity and business verification before allowing them to establish accounts. Yes.
Right, and that's a big difference from the URS. I mean, that's going to be a huge saver of problems will disappear left and right with just that piece.
Correct.
I got one other question that's come up a lot in a lot of, with whether it's carriers, brokers. There's been a lot of talk about DOT numbers taking the place of MC numbers. Is that something that's still in the schedule? I know it's been talked about since 1998 or so. Can you tell our audience kind of how that's coming along and what that's going to mean and make things better?
You bet. So when we roll out the new system, and we're looking at early 2025 for the new system, somewhere in the first half of 2025, that's what we're aiming for with the new system. It's a very complex build, so we want to get it right. But that's what we're aiming to do. When we roll out that new system, we will not issue a docket number anymore, the MC number. The MC number will go away. And the US DOT number will be the sole identifier for every single registrant. We are going to put a suffix at the end of the DOT number so you can quickly identify what authority that applicant has or that registrant has, but that won't be a marking requirement on the side of the truck. It'll simply be a suffix that's in our system so you can quickly identify that US DOT number has passenger authority or broker authority or property carrier authority. So that will, so the US DOT number becomes the sole number. But in addition to the US DOT number and operating authority, we're going to issue safety registration. Safety registration has been required by statute for quite a while, but our system has not been able to issue a safety registration. The new system will. So what it does when we issue safety registration, it expands our safety jurisdiction over some carriers that we didn't have before. Every carrier that operates interstate would have to have a safety registration. So right now, private hazmat and exempt for hires don't fall under our safety jurisdiction, or actually they're supposed to, but they need safety registration. The new system will issue them safety registration, which means we now have safety jurisdiction over them. So they will have to file insurance and BOC3 process agent, whereas they didn't have to before. So that is a change that's coming to private hazmat and exempt for hires. So I hope that helps clarify the US DOT number and operating authority.
Now, how will that affect those motor carriers that are 10,001 pounds or 10,000 pounds or less? Are there any changes with maybe having those guys required to have a DOT number on their door? Because they're not
if I heard you correctly, under 10,000 pounds, not operating interstate, really they don't fall within our jurisdiction. They don't fall within our authority. So there'll be no changes based on weight.
Okay. All right. And another question I was going to ask, it was on my list coincidentally, and I had somebody just ask again about it. And I know you're very familiar with this and seen a lot of things going on about it. Those illegal dispatch services that are taking freight and acting like they're a broker. Can you tell us a little bit about the agency's thoughts on that, or maybe some thoughts on regulating them or somehow getting our hands around that?
The Infrastructure Investment Job Act that came out from Congress I think a couple of years ago now, ask FMCSA to look at the definition of a broker and to look at operations like dispatch services. And we did just that. We took a long, hard look with industry's help on what is considered broker operations and who needs broker authority and who does not need broker authority based on what they're doing. And we published guidance on that. In fact, the guidance came out in June of 2023, the 16th of June last year. And that guidance clearly, in my opinion, clearly articulates who needs broker authority and who does not need broker authority based on the operations that you're conducting. And we specifically addressed dispatch operations. If they're, and you can conclude if a dispatch operation is doing these things, they should have broker authority. If they're not doing these things, they don't require broker authority. So I think I'd refer everybody back to that June 2023 guidance, Dale, and I think it'll help clarify who needs broker authority, who does not, and it specifically highlights dispatch operations.
Yeah, I think in that document there were 6 real basic criteria that if you don't meet these, then you're not, because we all have to agree that there are legal dispatch services out there that do a good job for carriers. But there are some really bad guys out there, and the reason that they're bad guys is because they aren't following those 6 steps. The good guys are, the bad guys aren't. So I personally would like to see some regulation on those guys if they're going to still be around. But I think that this is still a problem that's maybe down the road we need to maybe put some more effort into, because that's becoming an issue for a lot of people. But I know that if they would just follow the rule, they would be able to see they're not a legal dispatch service. But I think there's got to be some more enforcement or something like that. I have to tell you that I have to run in 4 minutes. I'm at a conference down in Charlotte, and I'm on the stage in about 11 minutes. So I just wanted to jump on here first, Ken, because I just so appreciate the conversations we have, and probably more than those conversations, the action that you take after those conversations. That really means a lot to me and I think to our entire industry, that we do have a friend at the FMCSA. Contrary to a lot of belief that people say, oh, the FMCSA is their own thing, they don't care about us. Well, I'm here to tell you that they do, because I've seen it firsthand. I've been a recipient of those changes based on the things that I'm trying to bring as an industry, maybe spokesperson to you. And before I go, I just want to say I really appreciate what you and Tony and the rest of your team is doing, because it's really making the difference. And we want to make you a friend of ours on this podcast too, where we can come back and have you come back during maybe after one of your listening sessions saying, hey, for the guys that couldn't make it here, we have a good audience here to talk to brokers and carriers about what we did at the listening session, what we came up with. I think that this is not the first time that we'll do this. This is the first time we do the podcast, but I certainly hope it's not the last, because you have a lot to offer, and I think we have a good audience to let you offer that too.
I appreciate the opportunity, Dale, and I appreciate the collaboration with you and help you educating us from an industry perspective. It really helps what we do. We don't like to work in a vacuum up at a building in Washington, D.C. We like to understand it from a ground perspective, and we appreciate what you bring. Yeah.
So from here, my co-hosts are going to just kind of take over and talk about, the other things that they do on their weekly podcast, that, empowering women in logistics. And I know that you have some ideas on that on from the government standpoint too, which is important, I think, for our audience to see how that all kind of comes together. So with that, I got to say goodbye and jump on the stage over there. But again, Ken, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming on to this show. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the Broker Carrier Summit, because we're going to have a group of drivers, brokers, everybody there to hear that same unified message. And I think that's going to be tremendously important to the industry.
Yeah. Thanks, Dale. Good luck.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Dale.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thanks, Dale.
All right. Bye-bye.
Good luck.
All right, Ken, now you're stuck with us.
All good. All good.
There might be a couple questions, Jeff, before we talk about the women, there's a couple questions maybe you might want to ask from the audience if we're able to.
Yeah, let's see what we got here. Oh, okay. Let's see. What about carriers using apps to broker loads to drivers?
Yeah, I don't know about apps, but let me talk about the dashboards, the load boards, if you will, like some of the companies out there use the load boards that match shippers with carriers, and I think the apps do the same thing.
Mhm.
It was FMCSA's determination that those were not broker operations, and we actually have a small piece about that in the guidance that we published back in June 2023. The fact that these load boards and these apps are not considered broker operations. And there's a variety of legal reasons for that. I won't get into the details, but that was FMCSA's decision, and we put that in the guidance.
Gotcha. And what about, this is another question. I don't know exactly what this would mean, but it says, how does a carrier have two DOT and MC numbers get away with swapping the MC numbers between the DOT numbers? You might have answered that, obviously, with what you have coming up with the new system and registration, right?
Yeah, Christy, it happens. Sometimes through fraudulent means where the same entity will end up with multiple numbers, and it shouldn't happen, but it does happen. And when we roll out the new system, it will be more secure. And when you're doing identity and business verification, and that person, that registrant gets a USDOT and MC number, it should be really hard for them to come back in and get a second number for the same legal entity. So we're building in measures to help prevent that with the new system, but it's not impossible with our legacy system, and it does happen.
Yeah, and I think, like you already said, with the way that you're going forward with this, I think it's going to be crucial to eliminating that and fixing this problem. Obviously, it's never fast enough, but I think you guys are moving pretty fast, to be quite honest, with what is happening out there to try to solve all these issues.
I would like to see it move faster, but yeah. I understand where I work, and I understand the legalities, and it just takes a little while to get things done, but we are persistent, and we will get it done because we need to, and we have to.
Right. Yeah. We have. I'm going to answer this question right here from Jonathan Hopkins. It says, I'd watch if they would listen to drivers, but people don't want to hear what we think. I disagree with that wholeheartedly, because I know what you guys are doing there at the FMCSA and how you're trying to move things fast forward, but it takes time. It's not something that just happens overnight. And we'll discuss this at the Broker Carrier Summit come up in October, 23rd through the 25th, where we can have these open discussions, where we have the discussions between carriers and brokers and the problems between the two of them and how they misrepresent each other and they truly don't understand what's going on either side. And I know with you present, Ken, on the stage, talking about the FMCSA and what you're doing and listening firsthand from carriers and brokers, I mean, you don't really get that opportunity too often to hear both sides. I think it's going to be really great for everyone to hear what you have to say, sir.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, Jeff. Like I said, we listen to the industry, we listen to customers, and those customers include all types of registrants, whether it be a broker, a carrier, or a freight forwarder, or an IEP, or anything else. We listen, and I will bring a registration perspective to the Broker Carrier Summit. I am not the expert on all things FMCSA.
Right.
I know who the experts are, so it may be a case where sometimes I'm writing down the question and taking it back and getting an answer, but I will get an answer from the subject matter expert. But I don't want to come to the Broker Carrier Summit and people think I'm the be all end all for FMCSA
Right.
because I am a bit registration focused.
Yep.
That's my office. That's a full-time gig, and so. But I will take other questions back. And I will just say on the driver comment, I agree with you, Jeff. The agency listens to drivers. We take it to heart. Our leadership our recent leadership and past leadership have had driver-focused forums where they invite drivers just to hear what the drivers have to say. And I'll tell you, we take that to heart, and they bring stuff back for us to work on, and we work on it. So I agree with your assessment, Jeff.
Yeah, and the other thing too, I'm really not sure what the intent from this question is, but maybe it had something to do with DOT registrations and MC. I'm not really sure, and maybe that's what he's leaning towards, because that's what we were talking about this past half hour. So, hey, Jonathan, if you want to come to the BCS, come on down and let your voice be heard. That's what the BCS is all about.
Yeah, and let me take an opportunity to plug an important venue coming up, Jeff. On October 21st, we're going to host our third, what we call Stakeholder Day, Registration Modernization Stakeholder Day. We've had two of them to date. The first one was back in May, and it was an in-person event at the DOT headquarters, and we invited the public to come listen to what we were going to build. And then a few months ago, we had Stakeholder Day number 2. That was a virtual only, where we had about 300 people online. Again, listening to our progress on developing the new system and hearing their feedback. The third one is going to be on October 21st. It's going to be a hybrid, which means we're going to have about 100 people in person. That's our capacity right now. And we can hold up to, I think, 500 online via Zoom. So it'll be a hybrid event. But we're going to update everybody on where we are with the build. The plan, I believe, is to give some demonstrations of what we're building. And we'll have really be 2 parts to it. The first part will be presentation and demonstration, and that can all be done online. But then our IT department has a plan to have some laptops available for in-person attendees where they can actually test drive the new system. That's the intent. I hope we get there. So kind of, a Zoom portion and then an in-person portion as well.
Yeah, and I think it'll be important for all of us to share that information on our network so we can get that out. And when people want to have their voice heard, obviously that's the platform to do that. So we will certainly get that information from you and share that within our networks.
Yeah, we published a Federal Register notice just last week on it. So it just came out. And then if you go to the registration website, we have information on our website about the stakeholder forum and how you go about registering. If you want to attend in person, you send an email to an email address that's listed. If you want to attend online, you would sign up via the Zoom method. So that's published, and we're ready for people to sign up.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, to be quite honest, I think everything you all have been doing this year to listen to what's going on, because I've been in the industry 26 years. We have not seen it this bad my whole career.
I agree.
Yeah, so we certainly applaud the efforts that you're making, and we know that it's not a huge staff that you have there. And I think as this continues to build out, hopefully then you'll get some more help to get this built out the right way. Then it won't be such a big problem in the future.
We hope.
We hope. We agree.
Yeah, and I definitely concur with what Christy's saying. Being in the industry over 40 years, what it used to be like in the late 70s, early 80s compared now. Are we going in the right direction? Oh, heck yeah. Yes, we're definitely going there. But it's these steps. You just can't rush, to please everybody. You have to take your place in line, and we're going to get to you because you guys want to do it right. You just don't want to go out there and put something and implement it and then with we'll fix it later kind of deal. No, you want to fix it up front now. So when you do implement, you do make those changes, especially with rules and regulations, according to FMCSA, you want to make sure it's right. And that's what takes time. It just doesn't happen that fast.
Yes, sir. Exactly. Yeah, our current system, I would say, is not real user friendly. It's not the customer experience we want. So we are building this new system with the customer in mind, trying to make it very user friendly, very intuitive, and so it better supports the customer experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So was there anything else that Dale didn't cover in regards to what is going on with the FMCSA and other items that you guys are working on?
Well, I did want to mention, I talked about the identity verification and the business verification and the more secure new registration system we're building. We've also taken steps to stand up a registration fraud team. Because fraud is so bad and the industry asked for our help, I got permission to hire 5 people that are solely focused on registration related fraud. Their main effort right now is to help customers and make them whole again. If we have a registrant that's been a victim of fraud and information has been changed in their account somehow, or people are fictitiously using their information, this team goes in and helps make them whole again, changes the information back to what it should be, the rightful owner of the account, and to make sure they're in good standing so that they can continue to operate. That's a major piece of what they're doing, is just helping customers get whole again. But we also want to try to get in front of the fraud so it doesn't happen in the first place. So This team also looked at how did it happen? How was the customer's information changed? And what can we do to prevent it in the future? So I wanted to let people know about that fraud team as well.
No, that's great. And the one thing is that, where it really hurts is the ethical service providers that are out there, these unethical people that are doing really bad things or giving the really good guys a bad name, because everybody thinks everybody runs the same way, and what you're doing is fantastic and trying to make that fraud go away. But it takes time. It definitely takes time.
Yeah, and I can tell you too, we had an instance where it wasn't, I think, our identity stolen, say, through the system, but where carriers noticed that there were loads posted that looked like they were from my company, but there was like 1 letter off on an email or something like that, and they alerted us. But unfortunately, there was some loads, I think, that some carriers took that didn't get paid. And then what happens is they come after us, and then at the end of the day, too, they can go after the customer, the actual truck that delivered it, to get paid. So then the customer calls us, and then we have to handle it. So that's a whole nother situation that's happening out there, too.
Yeah, Christy, I'm glad you brought that up. We're experiencing that same problem as well. And the fraudsters are getting very smart on how they do it. They're sending out emails that look like they're coming from fmcsa.dot.gov. They're using a government email address. Now, it's spoofed, as they call it. It's not actually us. It's them using our address, and it looks real. And they're requesting information that the customer should not give up, like social security number, PIN number to their account, and things like that. They're also sending out text messages the same way, where it looks like it's coming from FMCSA, and it's really not. And it's hard to tell the difference. Even I have to take a second look to say, is this us or is this a fraudster? They're using forms, FMCSA forms with our administrator's signature on the bottom, but they're adding in additional fields in the form like social security number. It's hard to tell fake from real. And I would just caution everybody out there to be very, very careful about the email, text, and forms that you're filling out.
Well, and I can tell you too, someone had used one of our dispatch forms and changed it, like you mentioned, but we were able to go back and see what carriers actually were on that lane to figure out where that was coming from. And I think there was a factoring company maybe involved in regards to this situation a year or so ago. But I think the problem in our industry is it's a fast working environment, and they're expecting someone you moving so fast that you're not going to catch it.
Right.
But you are right. You got to stop and listen and look.
Yeah. We also, whenever we find information like that, we do inform the OIG and the FBI. We work with both of those organizations in an attempt to find the really bad actors. So we always send what we get to those agencies.
Yeah, I got a quick question. One of our viewers asked, how can people contact the registration fraud team? Is this something that the public or drivers or brokers or something like that can reach out to, or is this more internal?
It's more internal, but we need to know if you've been a victim of fraud. So if you contact the FMCSA contact center, the 1-800 number, and you say, I've been a victim of fraud, your incident will get elevated up to the fraud team. So the fraud team can help you recover.
Awesome. Appreciate that, Ken. Thanks.
Yes. So let's get in a little bit, I guess, about the women in logistics that Dale brought up. Obviously, we do this podcast as well, talking about empowering women into logistics. And we know you've had some women within the group. So can you talk a little bit about what the government's doing there and just how that works and what are women bringing to the table?
Well, I can tell you some of the great women leadership that we have in the agency now and that we recently had. And I'll tell you, I having been in the military 30 years prior to assuming this job in FMCSA.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate great leadership, and we have some great leadership in FMCSA, and it just happens to be great female leadership, women leaders. Robin Hutchison was our former administrator. Now she departed for bigger and better things, but I deeply respected Robin, and she was a great leader. She absolutely was listening to industry and making progress to make things better for the industry. Sue Lawless filled in as the acting administrator when Robin Hutchison left, but Sue is still our executive director and chief safety officer. So Sue's been with the agency a long time, a great leader, understands the industry, understands what we're trying to do and what we need to do. And so I greatly appreciate working for Sue, and I appreciate Sue's leadership. So she remains in the agency as a key leader. We have other great female leaders. Our chief counsel, Melody Drummond Hanson, is a great leader within the agency, relatively new, but hit the ground running, I'll tell you. Really smart on what we do in a real quick way, and I appreciate working with Melody. Our director of government affairs, Brenna Marin, is awesome to work with. She understands the government side of things, the Hill, and understands our industry side and what FMCSA. So she is just such a great leader and such a great asset to the agency. I could talk for a long time about all the great female leaders we have, but that's what we have. That's today, and every one of those leaders is promoting, women in trucking and helping to resolve any issues that there are with women in trucking. And so they're great advocates for women in trucking and other organizations. So I just appreciate their leadership, and I enjoy working for them.
Do any of them go to the Women in Trucking event down in Dallas? It's in Dallas, right, Christy?
Yeah, it's in Dallas in November.
Yeah.
This coming November?
Yes.
Yeah, every year they have an event there where they bring in women from all over the industry to have an event.
I would have to check if FMCSA has been invited. I am sure that somebody will attend, but I just don't know.
Yeah, there's like about 3,000 people attend that, right, Christy? Somewhere around there?
Yeah, there's a lot of people and it's a lot of women, let's just say so.
Yeah, that's why I asked. I was just like, maybe that might be a great platform for one of those folks to go down there or even reach out. I'm sure, I will have to say, I'm pretty sure that they would love to have somebody from FMCSA, come to their event and, be a speaker down there for sure.
Yeah. I'll ask about that event.
Yeah, and we can certainly reach out too, because I think it's, I'm close ties with them as well. I've done a lot of work with them, and I do think it's good to get the other women out there that can see, there's carriers, brokers, insurance, like any aspect of the logistics industry, there'll be some women there supporting it.
A lot of drivers. A lot of drivers.
Yeah, well, we definitely appreciate the time that you spent with us today. If there's anything else you'd like to share, let's get that out. And other than that, we can wrap it up.
No, I appreciate it, Christy and Jeff. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking for ways to get the word out about our new registration system and what we're doing to help mitigate the fraud. And any chance I have to do that, I jump on it. So thank you very much for inviting me and having me participate today.
Yeah, I'd love to have you back, like every quarter, have another roundtable like this with Dale, or anytime that you want to use this platform to come and, talk about what's going on and some changes, as long as you can, because I understand that would be great.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we thank you so much for sharing these valuable insights with us today. Like we mentioned already, the FMCSA's work is crucial to the safety and future of our transportation industry. And it's clear there's some exciting changes that are on the horizon from modernizing systems to fighting fraud. These efforts are helping to create more secure and efficient environment for carriers and brokers alike. So for our listeners, we hope this conversation has been just as informative for you as it has been for us. So stay tuned for more episodes. And as always, thank you for tuning in.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Bye, Ken. Thanks.